Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you've been getting some good work done with Mrs. Wood over on some of the ADC stuff, your websites. I noticed in Moodle on our BCBL site that a lot of you guys have been filling out your profiles, which is really cool. Been checking out your avatars and getting to know a little bit about you guys. So if everything seems okay and the sound's working, you want to fire a green check mark into chat just so I know you're with me today. And everything's kind of working. I'll put up the agenda for today, what I'm hoping to get covered. I know we're starting a little bit early today, which is going to give us a little bit more time, hopefully. I won't throw too much stuff at you, though. See, most people are with me. Green checks. Everybody's internet, because you're all at different places, a little bit different speeds, so some of us are picking this stuff up really quickly, and for others it'd be a bit slower, but that's all good. So that looks great. About 10 of us are with me. We'll just carry on. So last day I went through a bit of a review of some grade 9 concepts, algebra, things like that, and I left a few worksheets with you. Hopefully you had a chance to look at those. Today I want to talk about any questions you might have had. I want to talk about how you submit that. Some of you guys are familiar with Moodle and some are not, so that's going to be a review for some people. The formula sheet's something that I didn't mention last day that it actually comes up today and what I hope to get to, so we can talk a little bit about the formula sheet. Calculators, printing, the learning guides, and then the lesson number 1, the actual. Hopefully we can start some grade 10 math today. So I first of all wanted to know if anybody had any questions from any of the work that we did last day. I had asked you guys to do 3 sheets. Just bring them up. There was the algebra one that you guys did with me. Looked a little bit like this. And that was a review. There was another algebra sheet with some similar questions to the ones that we actually did together in class. And then there was a order of operations or BEDMAS review. Looked like this. And I think a bunch of you already submitted these. But if you had any questions, even though you'd submitted it already, feel free to ask. Just fire it right into chat. And then fractions review, if anybody had any questions about that. So if you had any questions about any of the things you encountered there, if you want to just throw them into chat, I'd be happy to go through them right on the blackboard here behind me and get you guys sorted there. I don't see anybody. Fraction review number 5I. I like it. I'm already there. That's good. Devin, did anybody else have anything? How about I go to that first one on the fractions review, and then I'll give everybody else a chance if you had any questions to throw them into chat as well. So, C, D, E. Is it really the last question of the whole review? All right, fractions review, 5I. Okay, there's a couple ways we can do this. I'm going to spin my screen. Maybe I'll just do it this way, see how that works. So we're doing this guy right here. And this is 2 sort of mixed fractions with it's a subtraction in the middle. So it's a little bit trickier than some of the regular ones you guys went through, but we'll see what we can do. So the first thing I recommend doing is converting them from mixed fractions to just regular fractions. So if you recall how that works is if I have 3.5, what I'm going to do is this means 3 whole numbers and then 1/2 of whatever's left. We should have the question up on the screen. Is it not coming up for anyone else? It should say 5I. I'm not there anymore, but the question should be there. If you can't see anything, or if it's gone blank, just continue and let me know. It seems like it's working okay. I'm just going to keep working through the problem here. So to convert this to a whole fraction again, 3 times 2 is going to give me 6 plus the 1 is going to be 7 over 2. So I can simplify that back out to a mixed fraction again if I want, but the idea is I have 3 halves and then an additional 1 half. Okay, I think we're okay. Oh yeah, so sorry, I should have mentioned that as well. The live stream is going as well as the Blackboard, and the Blackboard's blank. No, of course. I forgot to mention it, so definitely not your guys' fault. But the live stream's going on the BCBL site if you want to link in there, and then you're going to have the chat going and then the live stream at the same time. We've tried to figure out ways to make it work a little bit more smoothly than having the 2 things running at the same time, but we can't figure out how for now. So if we do, we will, but for now, this is just the way it's gonna have to work. And I'm sure after a few days of kind of logging in and going through it, we'll get the hang of it. So I've converted the first fraction into just a regular fraction. I'm gonna do the same thing with the other one. So I have 1 and 2 over 5. So if I have 1, that's really like saying I have 5 over 5 and then another 2 over 5. So if I add them together, I'm going to get 7 over 5. And the same thing was for the first one here. 3 over 2 times 2 gives me that. So I'm subtracting these fractions, and if you recall from doing work with fractions, in order to add or subtract fractions, we need to have a common denominator. And in this case, I have a 2 and a 5. So what's common with a 2 and a 5? The lowest common denominator with the 2 and the 5 is going to be 10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get 10 for both of the bottoms, or the denominators. So I'm going to multiply this side by 5 over 5. I'm going to multiply this side by 2 over 2. The 2 and the 5 gives me the 10. 7 and the 5 together is going to give me 35. So that's 35 over 10 minus 2 times 7 is going to be 14 over 10. If I go 35 minus 14, I'm going to end up with 35 minus 10, 25 minus 4. I'm going to end up with 21 over 10. Now, one little kind of, I don't know, we'll call it semantic thing is, the question gave us these mixed fractions. So when I get to the solution, sometimes the answer is going to be in this form we have here, or it could be in a mixed fraction as well. So I'm going to convert it back to a mixed fraction. I'm going to put or. How many times does 10 go into 21? 10 goes into 21 2 times. So I'm going to have a whole number 2 out front. And then what's left over? I should have 1 over 10 left. Chloe just asked if this was due today, and I had asked that you guys go through it. I didn't know how many problems you'd have or how much you remembered from Math 9, so if you can have it done today by maybe this afternoon, that'd be awesome. If you think you need the weekend to go through it, you kind of run out of time, that's fine. I don't mind. I won't be marking this. It's just kind of to refresh your memories. It gives me an opportunity to see kind of where you're at in terms of your math skills. And it also gives you guys a little bit of familiarity with submitting things. So there's a few reasons we're doing it. Damon, yes, of course. If you get the same place, but you did it a different way, it's likely correct. I don't want to just say, yeah, it's perfect because I haven't seen the work you've done. You might have just stumbled across the right answer a different way, but I don't suspect that's correct. So section E of the same sheet, we definitely can. Letter E from the same question. Section E. What do you mean there, Taylor? I'm going to need something more specific than E. Somebody else asked a question up above. I'm just going to scroll up to it here in my chat. It was from the algebra review, number 24. I'm just going to write that down here so I remember. And if Taylor, if you want to know the review from Math 9, 34. Okay, are you talking about the algebra review, the first one we did? Review from Math 9, section E. I think you're talking about this one right here, Taylor. And then Anna, you put in 34. Again, I need to know what sheet that is so I can go to the right one. For now, I'll go through the review right here. Section E. So this is kind of a substitution section where we are given values for x, y, and z, and we need to put them in to the question. So I don't know, which one should I do? Maybe I'll do number 6 because there's a bit of order of operations to number 6 here. It could be a bit trickier. So looking here, we have from above, x equals 2, y equals -3, and z equals 4. And what I'm going to do is substitute these values into my equation. So I have the x is equal to the 2, so I'm going to put the 2 in there. I have y is equal to -3, but I don't have any y's, so I don't have to deal with that. And then I have z is equal to 4, so I'm going to substitute a 4 in wherever there's a z. And sometimes these variables will come in more than one place. That's fine if there's more than one x. Just every time you see an x, you put a 2 in. Every time you see a y, you put a -3 in, and the z, you put a 4 in. So here goes. I'm going to put this 2 in here for the x, and then I'm going to have 2 times, and then z is equal to 4. And then I need to remember my order of operations. So I need to do my multiplication before I can do my addition. So I'm going to just drop this 2 out front down because that's addition there. And then I have 2 times 4 on the other side is going to give me 8. The 2 and the 8 together, now I can do my addition. It's going to give me 10, and that should be where I end up with my answer. So that was section E. We had a question for, I believe, 24 and 34. Is this the 24 that I've forgotten who asked above? We're going to get to 24 there. And then 34 was the last one. You guys are, these tricky ones are getting to us, huh? All right, so number 24, we need to solve for the variable. So there's only one variable here. The variable in this case is m. So we're trying to get m by itself. And what we're going to have to do in order to do that is move everything to the other side. So what's happening with the m? We're multiplying it by 10. So 10 times m equals 50. The opposite of multiplying by 10 would be dividing by 10. And if I divide one side by 10, I have to divide the other side by 10 as well. So 10m over 10, the 10s are going to just divide to give me 1. I'm going to be left with m. And then 50 divided by 10 is just going to give me 5. Now, it's possible the answers are wrong for these. And if that's the case, just let me know. But that's 24. I think that was one of the questions. I'm just going to take another peek. Algebra 1, number 24. So Anna, hopefully that helped you out. And the other one was number 34 from the same sheet, which is a really good question to go over. So I'm going to scroll down here to 34. So the magic of technology will make that appear in the middle there. So what we're doing here is, this is one of the questions where we're, I did m is 50 divided by 10. So Taylor, that's fine. When we get a fraction like that at the end in our solution, we're just going to always simplify our fractions. And that's kind of an important thing especially for the answering questions on the tests, because they're mainly going to have multiple choice and other sorts of questions, and the provincial exam. In the provincial exam, every question is always going to be simplified. So if you end up with a fraction, it's always going to be in the lowest possible terms. So if you get 50 over 10, you actually need to just go through with that calculation. 50 divided by 10 gives me 5. So although you did the right steps and you knew how to get there, there was just one final step to simplify that. So there you go. I'm going to do this number 34, and then if anybody else has a question in the meantime, throw it into chat, the sheet, and then the question number. And if not, I'll just do a little bit of housekeeping, and then we'll get on to the actual lesson for today. So here we have 2h plus 1.5 gives us 9.5, or equals 9.5. What we need to do is get the variable by itself. So in this case, it's the 2 and the h. Because they're stuck together, I'm just going to leave them together until they're isolated. So I get everything away from the 2 and the h. So what I'm going to do is, because I'm adding 1.5, I'm going to subtract 1.5 from both sides. Going to leave me with 2h. The 1.5s are going to cancel out, give me nothing. And this is going to end up being 7. 9 minus 1 is 8. 8. 9.5 minus 1.5. Going to give me 8. And then I need to get rid of that 2. I'm multiplying by 2 on the left, the 2 and the h. So what I need to do is divide by 2 on both sides. If I do it on the left, I must do it on the right. The 2 divided by 2 is going to divide out and give me 1. So I'm going to be left with h, and then 8 over 2 is going to give us 4. So h is 4. So this is a bit of a trickier question. The kind of decimals in there, 4e and 4h. Same sheet, Damon, hopefully, yes. 4e, no, there's no 4e here. And 4h. Damon, if you mind throwing the sheet in, because I don't have a 4e and a 4h on this sheet. Just give you a second to help me out with that, Damon. If you can recall which sheet, maybe I can just figure it out by going to this one. Is it maybe the algebra, the BEDMAS one? Yes. Yes is not helping me very much. There's only 2 questions there, so wasn't that one? Maybe the fractions one? 4e and 4h. 4e. Calculate the product or quotient, answer in lowest terms. I'm just going to do this one anyways. 4e and 4h. These are both division questions, division with fractions. No worries, Sophia, it happens. And if you guys do get kicked out, for whatever reason, you lose internet and you have to, you can't get back in, remember we're gonna tape these. So pre-calculus 10, pre-review number 2. Okay, we're gonna tape all of the lessons, so you can always just log in again. So anything you miss will be just there all the time online in the course. So we're gonna load them right into the course. Usually takes a couple hours for it to all render and get online, but that's kind of the hope. So hopefully these are the questions you're looking at, Damon. And I'm just going to go through them anyways, because I haven't done anything on this sheet yet. So the question here, 4e, asks us to take a half and divide it by 6. And what we need to do is, remember, anytime we're dealing with a fraction, or just a whole number. In this case, the 6 is just kind of sitting here, but we can always write 6 over 1, because if we go 6 divided by 1, we just get 6, and that's kind of what we had there to begin with. So 6 divided by 1 is 6. We can write it as 6 or 6 over 1. They're both the same thing. So I'm just going to rewrite this as 1/2 divided by 6 over 1. So it's just the exact same thing. Now, when we deal with fractions, we never divide fractions. We always multiplied by the reciprocal. You likely learned it as kiss and flip, if you remember that. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave the 1/2 out front. We're going to multiply these, and we're going to flip it. So 1/6. So what I did was I flipped the second one. On the top, I get 1 times 1 is 1, and on the bottom, I get 2 times 6 is 12. And that should be it. So it's likely that that was just something that we didn't remember doing. So hopefully this is refreshing our memories a little bit. I'm going to do letter H here, and then I don't see anybody else putting any questions into chat, so I can just move on after this. And if there's something later on, you're like, oh, darn, I forgot about this question that I couldn't do, just send me a message or something, and we can figure it out after the fact. So same deal here. Almost the exact same process as well. I'm just going to rewrite this again as 2/3, and then I'm going to divide that by, instead of 4, I'm going to put the 4/1. Because 4 divided by 1 is just 4, and that's what I had before. It's the same thing. I never divide fractions. I always multiply by the reciprocal or kiss and flip. There's my kiss, my x, my flip. I flip the second one. And then when I'm multiplying fractions, it's just as simple as top times top, bottom times bottom. So 2 times 1 gives me the 2, and the 3 times the 4 gives me 12. Now this comes back to the idea where we have a fraction as our answer, but is the fraction in simplest terms? And this one is not. So we need to make sure we simplify our fractions. So 2 and 12 both have a common number that can go into both of them. And the common number that goes into both 2 and 12 is 2. So I'm going to divide the top by 2, and I'm going to divide the bottom by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is going to give me 1. And 12 divided by 2 is going to give me 6. So 2/12 and 1/6 are the same thing. And Taylor, you were a step ahead of me there. So that's how we simplify our fractions. We need to always remember to do that. It's kind of interesting dealing with grade 10 students because you guys will do so much work. There'll be big, long questions, and you'll do all this work, and you get to the end, and you won't see the answer there, and you'll just be devastated. And then sometimes it's as simple as just simplifying your fractions. So it's just something we need to get in the habit of, and we'll get used to it over time. So that was the 3 review sheets. Now again, I'm not collecting them for marks. I just want to have a look at them and make sure you kind of know what's going on. And the idea was to give you an opportunity to sort of to submit these assignments so you get a feel for what that's all about. Maybe using a camera app like TinyScan or CamScanner or one of the various other apps that's out there. Whatever works for you, go ahead and use it. So that was kind of the purpose behind these things, just to get you back into math a little bit and get you kind of familiar with the course. So I'm just going to flip back over to my agenda here, and I just want to see how far we got. So we made it through the questions from the review. I want to go through how to submit this now, and then I want to talk a little bit about the formula sheet, the calculator, printing, all that other stuff. So yeah, if everyone just wants to bear with me, I'm just going to go back over to our course here. So if we go into BCBL, this is the course. So this is the very top here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch my role to a student. So your screen will look exactly like mine when you've logged in. So you should look something like this. When you scroll down a little bit, we have this first unit that's open. And the sheets that we did here were the algebra review, bed mass review, and fractions review. And a few of you were having issues with the Word documents, so I included PDFs of them as well. And if you couldn't get the Words open, hopefully the PDFs worked. And if you keep running into issues opening Word documents, let me know. I'll try to include PDFs as well, but sometimes it's a lot of work for me to duplicate all these things. So I apologize. If you're having issues with opening or closing things, just let me know and we'll see what we can do to figure it out. The very bottom of this Unit 1 it says submit review work in one file. So I'm going to open it up. I wrote next to it here, due today, Thursday at 3:30. Like I said, if you didn't get it done and you want some time to work on this, I'm not going to say, no, it's not in, you need to get it done. If you want to work through it, take your time. If you can get it in when you get it in, that's good. But it's important that you know how to submit these things. So some of you have done this before, and there's just going to be a review, but others have not. So I'm just going to go through it real quick. So once I'm in the assignment, if I click on this Add Submission button, it's going to open a new little window here. And sometimes you'll have to scroll to the bottom if it's a big, long assignment. But it asks you to enter some online text. So you can put in whatever you want. You can say, like, here is my assignment. And you could put, I really had a tough time with question number 5, or I think the answer to number 7's wrong, or anything like that. That will just give me a little bit of heads up. If everyone says, 7 was wrong, then maybe it was my fault, sort of thing. The important thing here is this file submission down below. Now, there's a little blank page with a plus sign on it. The self-assessment, that's something that I'm sure Mrs. Wood and Mrs. Ward are going to do a lot with your ADC and your English. And for those types of courses, it's going to make a bit more sense for you to have a self-assessment. But for math, I'm not sure it really makes sense. I'm going to leave the online text box as somewhere to tell me if you had issues. So if something wasn't working, you didn't understand something, I did a poor job of explaining something, you can let me know in that online text box. But I don't necessarily need you to say, this is how I felt I did on this assignment. If you want to, by all means, but I'm not going to require it. I'm not going to say you must write in a self-assessment. Really, for the math course, the only things you're going to submit to me are kind of sort of workbooks for each of the units. And I'm going to assume you've done it all unless you otherwise tell me you had a question. So the sort of the self-assessment doesn't make quite as much sense with us. That's just kind of my opinion. So I'm going to add a file. It's just this little page here. And then it's going to ask me to choose the file. So what I'm going to need to do is I need to go into my hard drive on my computer and figure out where that file is. So if you are using Cam Scanner or Tiny Scanner, you're going to take all the images, you're going to put it all together in one big document, and then you're going to save it. I think you're going to have to email it to yourself, or some of you will be able to maybe have like cloud storage, like Google Drive or something. You'll be able to pull it right from there. So you're going to have to choose the file. You're going to have to figure out exactly where it is. Now, I don't have a file to submit, but maybe I can find just a file I could throw in here. How about this prototype worksheet? I don't even know what that is, but I'm going to submit it anyways. So I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to go down to Open. And you're going to see next to Choose File, the name of the file that you've chosen is going to appear there. So that means that that's the file you picked. And this Save As you can ignore. The author, your name will likely appear next to that. And then what you need to do is upload the file. What that's going to do is it's going to take the file off your computer and it's going to bring it onto the Moodle server. So now the course has that file. And the important thing is to click on the Save Changes button. So all the work that you've done won't get saved until that is there. So you can see what it kind of looks like from your end again. It'll say submitted for grading. If I've graded it, it'll tell you your status. So it'll say graded. Due date, I was hoping to have that by 3:30 today. It says hours remaining. Don't stress out about it. It's not super important. I just had to put it in a time, and 3:30 made sense because that's the end of my day. It tells you when it's last modified, and if you ever want to go in and change it, just click on Edit, and then you can go through the exact same process, and maybe you've changed something. And the little page now appears as a little folder with a plus sign. And you can click on that again, and click on the file with this, and then you can download or delete it if you want to add a new one if you click right on that file. So that'll allow you to update it, and then just click Update and then Save. Ava and I think Abby actually had the same problem, and it was my fault. So Ava's written in it said the file was too big. And I had one of the settings wrong under the course. I had the maximum upload size. It was too small. I think it was only 10 megabytes, which isn't nearly enough. So I changed it to 100 megabytes. So if you tried to submit it and it said file's too big, if you go back and try again, it should work. And if it's still too big, send me a message in Moodle and I can increase the file size again, but I doubt that your file will be bigger than 100 megabytes. So again, that was my fault. If you didn't submit it yet because of that, that's fine. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm just gonna go back into the course and yeah, I'm gonna just leave it at that. If you have any issues submitting any of those, then let me know. Send me a message in Moodle and I'll give you a hand for sure. The next thing on the agenda, I wrote the agenda so I would remember. Some people think it's for you guys, so you'd know what to do. So how to submit. Next thing is the formula sheet. Formula sheet, calculators, and printing. I can do those all together. A little bit of housekeeping here. Up at the very top of the course, you can see it says formula sheet and it says print and use for all exams. I'm just gonna open this right now so you guys can have a little peek at it. Maximize this behind me here. And this is the formula sheet that actually comes in with your provincial exam. So when you guys go to write your provincial exam, and again, I'm not sure if you're gonna do a paper copy or an electronic copy. If it's electronic, you can open the formula sheet in a new window. If it's paper, you'll have a physical copy of it. I have one here. I've printed it off because I use it all the time. And right now, you guys haven't really got too far into the course, but a lot of the stuff we do has some really helpful things on it. So there's lots of formulas. There's some conversion things you can see up at the top here behind me, all this conversion stuff. That's stuff we're gonna actually be dealing with today. Might not get to it. There's formulas for finding the areas of shapes, perimeters, all sorts of stuff. So a lot of times you'll be plugging away through your provincial exam and it'll be a question maybe about surface area and you'll be like, oh my goodness, I don't remember the formula for surface area. And yeah, it's on the formula sheet. So all that stuff's in here, please use it. If you haven't printed this off yet, if you could, that would be awesome. You can see here we have all the formulas. We have all of our trig stuff. We have a little bit of algebra tiles things there. Let's scroll down here a little bit so Mr. Ross can have a peek at that stuff. It tells you all the legend stuff, so length, width, base, what all the letters mean. You can see there's a ruler on here, which is kind of strange, but you actually need to measure some stuff on your formula, on your final exam. All of the formulas for the perimeters and areas of all of these shapes. Again, more 3D shapes now. And that's it, 3 pages. So that's your formula sheet. And you're gonna have to print one of those off. Which brings me to kind of my next item on the agenda was the formula sheet and printing. When we're printing things, you guys have a ton of stuff to print at home, but I have a really nice, can you bring it in? That's a really good question. You have the sheet during the exam, but you can't bring your own in because they're concerned about sort of like cheating and things like that, because you could write a bunch of stuff onto it. So you don't need to bring yours in. They'll provide you with a blank one when you go to do your final exam. So yep, you get the exact same one. Everything will be identical, but you don't need to bring it with you. We'll provide you with one. So the one that you have is just for your work at home. Always just have it ready. I'm gonna leave one on my little tray here, so I always have the stuff at my fingertips. Printing. There's a lot of stuff to be printed, and if you run out of printer ink or anything like that, or like, well, Taylor, we'll go over the exam a little bit down the road. We haven't even started the course yet, so it's all provincial exams are 3 hours long. They kind of give you an hour to do it, and then you have 2 additional hours. So the test is designed to be done in about an hour, hour and a half. Printing. I'm going to come to Wild Play tomorrow, hopefully, and if I'm not there, Mrs. Wood or Mr. Fender or some of these other teachers will be there, so I can send these things with them. I don't mind printing these things off for you here. So if your printer's broken, you don't have any ink, things like that, just let me know. I can print it off for you, and you can just be waiting here at my office, and it just makes life a little bit easier. So if you need something printed, or if you want maybe like a whole unit's worth of worksheets and stuff printed all at once, I can get that all ready for you, and you can just come pick it up at my office. Or if you want me to do it and bring it to you on like a Friday field trip, or send it with somebody on a Friday field trip, then just let me know, and I can make sure that that happens. So you just need to send me a message in Moodle. I'm not going to print one for everyone because a lot of people aren't in Kelowna or have access to a printer that's working at home, but it can get expensive printing all of this stuff. So I totally understand. I would love to print this stuff off for you at my work if you need it. The same thing goes with the calculators. If you don't have access to a calculator, you can't find one. A few people are asking about signing one out from Central. If you need a calculator, can't get your hands on one, send me a message in Moodle. I will bring you one tomorrow to WildPlay, or I will make one available at our school here for you to come pick up. So if you're having issues with the calculator, let me know. Send me a message, and I can get one into your hands for the whole semester, and for the whole year, because you'll need one for science as well. There's a little bit of math in the science course, second semester. What else did I want to talk about? I think I'm almost done here. Sorry, there's a lot of talking today. I did the formula sheet, I did the calculator, I did printing, the Unit 2 learning guide, and then the kind of the lesson that I wanted to get to. Those are the last things. So I'm going to just sneak back into the course here, scroll down a little bit. So basically this first introductory unit, we can see the video we did 2 days ago on Wednesday. I put it right in there. And all of the assignments, I'll put up solutions to those 3 worksheets maybe this afternoon. I just need to unhide them. And then the submit there. The next thing we're going to do is get into Unit 2, which is actually the first unit. And I'm not entirely sure how I want to display this all for you guys. So I'm just kind of flipping back and forth. But for now, this is kind of what it looks like. So in Unit 2, you can see the very top thing here is the Unit 2 learning guide. And this is, I think it's about 8 or so pages of questions that we're going to kind of work our way through. Now, the way that I want you guys to maybe think of the Unit 2 learning guide is more of a review for the exam than something we're going to kind of do along the way. You can work through it as we go. That's fine. It doesn't really matter when it gets done. But the learning guides are what you're going to submit to me. So it kind of makes sense for you to go through the lessons with me. I have some other worksheets, one worksheet for each lesson. And then once you're kind of done, you kind of have a good grasp on things, then maybe it's a good time to go back and do the learning guide in preparation for the test, because there's no review for the test at the end. So that would be what the learning guide is. It's kind of preparing you for what's coming. So you can see this is what we have here for today, and we don't have a ton of time, so maybe I'll get a few questions done. I'll explain a few things here. So this dimensional analysis, this is a little video that another teacher prepared, and you can go ahead and watch it. It's optional. It might clarify some things for you, so it's there. If you don't watch it, you're not going to be any further behind. If you do watch it, you're going to be doing just fine. And this lesson 1 worksheet is what I was hoping to get through today. So today we're going to talk a little bit about imperial lengths and measures. But before we do that, I'm just going to jump back to the course and explain a few more things. This lesson 1 practice is kind of like if you were in a traditional math class, your teacher would say, hey, do question number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, A, B, and C. And that's kind of your homework for tonight. That's what you want to think of these practice things as. I'm not going to take them in for marks. They're really for you to just kind of have some things to work on. You guys don't have a textbook, so this is kind of like the textbook. Instead of having these questions in a textbook, you're just going to have to print out these sheets and have them and kind of work through them. So that's what the lesson 1 practice is. I'm going to jump into the actual lesson 1. And the way the course is set up is it's an online course, but now I'm teaching it. So the course is designed so you can go through it on your own and you can just work through it. You don't really need me. but I'm here to help you guys, and I'm going to do lessons and things with you. So if you open up this and you see, okay, well, I can begin the lesson. What does this look like?
There are many types of measuring systems in the world. For example,
and I'm just going to pause him for now. And you can see down at the bottom here, there's 17 sort of pages with descriptions and
we are mainly going to be working with imperial measures of length.
This is a lesson that somebody has prepared for you guys. And you can see it's measurement, thumb, inch, all of this stuff.
Like
and you
this
can go
here.
Through it if you want. But I'm going to go through the exact same
the number of feet.
So you can think of these things that are in the, sorry, that audio's playing. You can think of these lessons that are built into the course as just kind of additional stuff. If you think the way I've explained it's kind of confusing, there's this additional sort of lesson you can go through, and maybe it can clarify things. You can see up at the very top of this as well, there's a practice assignment. The practice assignment is what I've already included in the course. So those are the questions. Those are the questions we're going to go through for like homework or during the lesson. You can see here practice solutions. So all of the practice questions are going to have these solutions. Well, not all of them, most of them. The trickier ones are going to have solutions. So the solutions are for you, if you're having issues with one of the questions, you can go in, and this nice gentleman, I'm afraid I don't even know his name, who's gone through this whole lesson, he explains how to do the questions, and he shows all of his work, and it's really nicely laid out. So if you're doing the practice assignment, what you should print out and do, because a few people are kind of confused about what to print and what not to print, you going through the practice assignment, you get stuck on a question, the solutions are all in here. And then at the very the end here, you have the formula sheet. Why are we using imperial? Only 3 countries in the world use it. That's a terrific question. 3 countries, do you know what the 3 countries are? United States, I think it's Myanmar, also known as Burma, and Libya. I think those are the 3 countries that still use imperial. Why do we use it? Because our neighbors to the south are one of the most powerful nations in the world, and they still use the imperial system. And if I asked you how tall you were, you would likely say, "Oh, you know, Mr. Borden, I'm 5'7". Oh, really? Aren't you like 175 centimeters tall or 1.75 meters tall? If I asked you how much you weighed, would you say, you know, I weigh 68 kilos? No, you'd probably say I weigh 150 pounds or 110 pounds. So it's just kind of part of our culture. It's really strange that we deal with imperial and metric all at the same time. And it's even stranger that in the United States, most science that's being done there, they're using metric. It's just they just love their imperial system. They're going to stick with it. It costs probably too much money for them to switch at this point. Think of all of their Libya, Myanmar, USA. I thought I was right. So for them to switch, think of all of their like traffic signs would have to be changed from miles to kilometers. Speed limit signs would have to be changed. It would just be this massive cost. So I don't know. I'm not an advisor on US policy, but that's probably why they haven't changed yet. All right, so the worksheet was what I was hoping to do, but we only have about 15 minutes, so I won't get too far into that. Lesson 1 practice is just the same as the sheet that is in here. Practice assignment and the lesson 1 practice are the same thing. There's also this note-taking supplement that goes along with the video. The video here behind me. So if you want to, use that video, you can print off that note-taking supplement, and as the lesson goes through, you can take down notes, and it's all kind of laid out for you exactly, and the images are all on that sheet and things like that. So I'll bring that up and show you what that looks like. And again, you don't have to use this. This is just kind of in addition to what I'm doing with you guys. So as the lesson kind of goes through, the nice man will talk and tell you about all these things. And again, it's just some extra stuff. But this is kind of what I'm going to do with you guys. So it's not entirely necessary for you to go through that. Unless you want to go through this lesson twice. The extra stuff is there. Or again, if you miss class and the video's not up yet and you really want to get ahead, you can go through this stuff on your own. It's kind of meant to be a go through it on your own kind of layout, but I'd like to do some of the stuff with you. So I know I didn't tell you guys to print off this worksheet, but what I'm going to tell you is this. The lesson 2 practice is here, lesson 1 practice is here, lesson 1 worksheet. I'm going to throw in the lesson 2 worksheet this afternoon so you guys can, that's what we're going to go through on Monday's class. So if you guys want to start printing some of this stuff off, maybe print off a formula sheet so you have that with you because you'll definitely be using it. That would all be really good stuff. I apologize for talking so much. I'm going to go through the lesson 1 worksheet right now. I'll try to be done by 11, so we'll just get a jump on it. I'm going to go into my OneNote here. I'm going to flip my screen around. But lesson 1, is that all for homework? It's a really good question. We'll see how far we get here. I don't think we're going to get very far, so I'm going to leave it up to you. If you're really excited to do some math, then go ahead and do some math. If you want to work on some of that ADC stuff that you've been going through, or if Mrs. Ward has you guys doing some English and you want to do that, that's fine. Next week we have math every day, so I'm going to expect that we get through some serious stuff next week. So this is the assignment that I wanted to go through. I realize you don't have it printed off, so if you just want to kind of look at it and watch me go through it for now, and then you can go through it after, that's fine. If you want to just grab some paper and a pencil and kind of jot as I go, that would work as well. I promise I will have these things up a little bit beforehand, and then you guys will be ready to rock with me. So just trying to figure out exactly how I want to present this and what you guys are going to do and what it's going to look like for you. So I'll give you guys a couple seconds. If you have some paper or pen handy, you want to grab that. Now would be a great time. I'm going to, hopefully this doesn't go all wonky, make that full screen. And it went wonky. All right, so we're in Unit 2. I know it's kind of backwards starting with Unit 2 instead of 1, but I kind of like starting with this one, so we're going to do that. And this is the first sort of lesson into Math 10. And we only have about 10 minutes, so I'm going to just try to get through as much as I can. And yeah, if I get long ways through, then you guys can do it. This stuff's pretty straightforward, so if you have some time and you want to go through it, that's great. So the first thing here at the top, in 1976, Canada adopted metric units. So 1976 was a bit before your guys' time, but we call our system metric. It's based on powers of 10. You guys know all this stuff. But we often use imperial to measure height and weight, which is pretty common. So people, like I renewed my driver's license not long ago, and I went in and they said, how much do you weigh? And I said, I'm 180 pounds. And they're like, okay. And they had in their computer just converted from pounds to kilograms. But when I got my driver's license, it actually says my weight in kilograms on it. And they asked how tall I was, and I said, I'm 6 feet tall. And then again, on my driver's license, I think my height's 183 centimeters. So it just converted. And my license has my weight in metric, but I told them in imperial. It's just kind of our culture. It's kind of strange. But anyways, you can see here when we're talking about inches, feet, yards, and miles, we need to come up with some sort of referent. So what a referent is something in everyday life that is an inch long, or something in everyday life that's about a foot long, or something in everyday life that's about a yard long. So it's not exact, but if somebody says, that's 3 feet long, you have a bit of an idea of what that looks like. Now we're pretty familiar with feet, and inches maybe not so much, and yards and miles probably not, because we deal with meters and kilometers. But can anybody think of something that we could use, maybe that we'd have with us all the time, that would be about the length of 1 inch? So an inch is about 2.5 centimeters. Anything you can think of that you'd maybe carry with you or you'd have all the time? If If you want to throw it into chat, that'd be awesome. Same thing with foot, yard, and mile. If you can think of a referent for any of those, you want to just throw it into chat, and then I'll just write them down here on the sheet. Maybe you'll get the inch started. Your thumb for an inch, that's perfect. That's actually the one that I have. So your thumb is about 2.5 centimeters long. My thumb here from there to the first knuckle, I think that's a great reference. So I'm going to put that one in because I really like that one. How about a foot?